So I'm going to do a tutorial mainly for myself. I'm not an expert in this by any means, but I always find myself looking for different videos and having to switch through different ones every time I'm trying to find something. So I'm creating this video. I will leave a link in the description to the video I learned from. Also, I'm going to leave timestamps so you can quickly jump to any section that you're interested in, and it's going to make it easier for me whenever I come back to this video to jump straight to a certain part. So this video is just going to be on bones, how to use them, how to make them move, etc. So in order to bring in a bone, very first thing, I'm going to go up here to where it says add, and I'm going to click on armature, and that brings in a bone. And I can, over here on the left, I could click the little move, and with that I can move this back and forth, or I can click rotate and I can rotate it, you know, any way I want. Depending on which one I use, I can rotate it any way I want. And that's the bone as just a single object. Now in order to work with this bone, I'm gonna have to click up here on the where it says object mode and switch to edit mode. Being in edit mode lets me be able to manipulate the bone, add more bones, etc. So once in edit mode, there's basically this top ball and the bottom ball. So that's kind of like the joints where the bone connects. So if you click one of these balls and hit E, that'll extrude out another bone from that point, and then it's free movement right now, so you can move it any way that you want. So we're like, you know, you could do it 360 or however you want. And then if you click, you know, if you're on the little ball, hit E, it's gonna make another one. So you could actually click that, hit E, click on the ball again, hit E, got a ball again, hit E, and you can make as many bones as you want. So now if I have a bone in a certain area, you know, and I want another one, I can click on that bone. I can hold down the shift key and hit D, and it'll duplicate, and it duplicates that bone. Can copy it. So if, you know, for example, you wanted to, the bone was a certain size, and you wanted to, you know, you wanted to make sure that the other bone was the same, you would click on the bone itself, hold down shift and hit D to move it back and forth. Now as far as sizing the bones, if you click on that ball, and you know, if you hit E, it'll extrude another bone out. But if you're on that ball and you hit G, it'll let you resize it, you know, to whatever size you want, just by dragging, you're resizing it and make that bone any size that you want. Now if I want to, say, attach one bone to another, so with this bone highlighted, I'm going to shift D to duplicate and move it over. Now if this is the main bone and I want to attach this bone to this one to let it know that it's attached, so since this is going to be the main bone and this one's going to be the one it's coming off of, I'm going to click the one that it's going to be coming off of, the one that's not the main bone, and I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to click the main bone. So I'm going to select the bone that I want connected first, and then I'm going to hold down shift and select the bone I want it connected to. And then once I do that, I'm going to hold down control and hit P. I think of it like pairing. I'm pairing these two bones together, hold down control, hit P. And if I want the bone connected, I would connect it, but I'm going to click this keep offset, and when it does, it connected this bone to this one, and I can tell they're connected by this little black line. So if I go back up to object mode and I move the main bone, it's going to move that other bone with it wherever it goes. Now if I'm still in edit mode, I can take that one bone and it'll move by itself. It's still connected to that one, but it can move by itself. But once it's set to where it wants to be and I'm in object mode, it'll move the two together. And another thing, if I now hit Shift D to duplicate, since it's copying this bone, and since this bone was parented to the main bone, it now copies and it's now paired to the main bone. And again, in edit mode, I can move this around wherever I want, but once I go into object mode or even pair mode, once I move that main bone, wherever I leave that bone or have it set, it's going to follow, because they're now paired together. If I do go into pose mode and I select its main bone, when I move it, it'll move the bones that's set with it. But if I move the bone that's not set by itself, it'll move that individual bone by itself. Only when it's set to the main one will it move all of them together. So as you can imagine, if you had a ton of bones, if you're being real intricate or whatever with it, and you had a ton of bones, it could get a little confusing on what's what. So if you click on a bone, okay, so over here on the right is the armature, right? And then there's the pose. We're in pose mode. And there's the main bone, and then you have 1 and 2. So you have the main bone, which is here, and then you have that first bone, which is that one, the first one you created off of the main parent bone. And then there's the next bone. So, and because you get confused really easy, you can target a bone, you could hit F2, and you could rename that bone. So if this was the hip, right, you could rename it to hip, and it changes over here for you. And then you can hit the next bone, you can hit F2 and say this is left leg, right? And then you can click the next one, hit F2, and you can name that right leg or right L, right underscore L, any naming convention you want. And then now you have your left leg and you have your right leg, something similar. So in order to name bones, you would just hit F2, click on the bone itself, hit F2, and you can rename it to whatever you like. So that's how, if you create a bone separately from the parent, that's how you can connect it. Now, again, if we're back in edit mode here, if I click here and I hit E to extrude a bone out, the bone is automatically connected. Because I've clicked on this joint first and I hit E, I'm extruding it from this joint. So that bone is already connected to the bone that I clicked on. Okay, and one of the things I learned is to try to keep the bones, because you're going to do a lot of like dealing with symmetrical and things like that. So I'm just going to now make bones, make like a little figure here. So when I click on here, I'm going to click E to extrude it. And when I click that, I can hit Z, which will keep it straight on the Z axis to where it can't move. That way I can just make sure that it's perfectly aligned. So I'm going to click that, hit E again to bring another bone, hit Z to keep it straight, and then hit E one more time, make one more bone, hit Z to make sure it's straight. Now let me just zoom out here a little bit. So you can see, if we look, it's perfectly straight. So I could click this right on the ball joint and then move it to kind of make the different sizes of the bones. And I hit Z again when I go to move it to make sure. So I'm thinking the bottom two, it's like the spine. Okay, so I'll click on this joint. Actually, I'm going to do this one. Click on this joint. I'm going to hit E to extrude it out. And again, it moves. But if I hold X, if I hit X, it keeps it aligned on the X axis instead of the Z axis. So if I look at this from the side, click that bone, right? Move it anyway, hit X to keep it aligned on the X axis. And then I'm gonna click right here, hit E to make another one, extrude it out, hit X, keep it on the X axis, and this one. Oh, so if you want to, if you need to delete a bone, right, you could click on that bone, you can click delete, and then you'll just choose bone and it deletes that bone. So let's take another one here, hit E, bring it out, hit X, keep it along the X axis, and then I'll take this one, E, and I'm gonna drag this down. I can hit X, keep it on the X axis. Yeah, let's just do that. And then I'll bring this one out, click X. There we go. Extend that one a little bit. Okay, so I have this structure here, and I started with this bone, and it moved up. It created the hierarchy. Start with one, move to the rest. If I come up here, I go into pose mode. Now, if I move this bone, let's just do a rotate. If I move this bone, it moves all of the bones in the hierarchy. If I move this bone, it'll move all of the bones from its hierarchy. And then if I move, like, so the top one, right, it has no bones attached to it, it will only move that bone. If I move this bone, it moves that one and the one that's connected to it above it. So, and then, so like this one, it moves all of those. And then if I move this, it's by itself, it's not going to move any, and the same with this one. So it basically follows that hierarchy, and it will move whatever bone it wants that's attached to it. Okay, so now I'm basically gonna show you how you can copy from one side to the other. So I'm gonna make here just a basic skeleton, basically like a human skeleton. So I'm just gonna, I'll do a couple here and then I'll pause it so it won't take so long. So I'm basically, I'll go ahead and scale this bone down, and again E to make the bone extrude out, and I'll just, this is gonna basically be like the spine. I'll just hit E, and I'm not even, okay, I'll hit E, I'll hit Z just to keep it all symmetrical. Click there, hit E, Z, and this is probably going to end up being a big model. And then so we have the hip, we got the spine, and then I'm gonna, again, to rename it, I'll click this, I'll hit F2. This will be hip, and this is important if you're going to be copying from one side to the other. So like the leg here, we'll hit F2. When you rename it, we have to put, so this will be the left side if we're looking at the person. So this will be top leg dot L. It's important to put the dot L so that it knows when it copies over, it'll do a dot R to make it on the right side. So let's say we hit E, bring it down, and hit E, make a foot. I'm gonna click this, hold down L, either, oops, undo that, and let's click here, E, Okay, and so this is, I named this top leg. Over here on the right, I can click on armature, click out here. You can see the total number of bones from the hip. We have bone 2. So I'm gonna hit F2, top leg, click this one. This will be bottom leg dot L. And did I make this one an L? Yeah. And then this will be foot. Oops. Hit F2. Foot L dot L. So this is the foot, the left foot. And this will just be, and I'm just going to make this real quick just to get through this. So this will be arm dot L. And this will be hand dot L. So now I have this very basic, you know, starting to look kind of like a skeleton. We got arm, hand, leg, foot on the left side. And so I'm still in edit mode here. I'm going to click anywhere on the screen. I'm going to select A. I can either select A to select the whole thing, or I can click on a bone, hit shift, hold down the shift, and then I can click on each individual bone to highlight it. But since this is very simple and there's nothing else here that I need, I'm just going to hit A to select all. Once I have it all selected, I can come up here to armature, come down and hit symmetrize here. And it duplicates it on the other side. And the cool thing is, since, right, if we go here, this is the top leg L. When it made the copy, it basically copied over top leg R, right? We bring this down, bottom leg L, bottom leg R. It automatically does it for me. So now, if I go and click up here and go into pose mode, I can pose this however I want. So let's see if we can make this guy do the splits. All right, bring that leg straight. Oops. Let's take this leg, rotate it. Okay, and then we move this leg, this leg. This one needs to go down. And this one needs to go down. There must be 2 bones here. There must be 2 bones here. I must have added 2 somehow. But basically you can see I can, in pose mode, you can now make the guy do the splits. So if I go back into edit mode, I click up here, delete that. Yeah, so we can see, yeah, there was 2 there. Somehow I got 2 there. So it's pretty cool. Now, so that's the basic structure of the bones, how to move them, adjust them, change them, all of that, etc. Now, one other thing I wanted to do is, I just want to put this in here for my future reference too. If I come up here to view, and I go to viewport, and I can, so right now we're at the front, right? If I switch it to the right, it will move it to the right. So if I go back to view, go to viewport, and go left, it moves it to the left side. Now, that obviously there is a faster way to do it, but if you go to view and say I want it to go to the right side, right, and I know this is right, I can see that it's set to my number pad 3. So I can make a list on how to do it with shortcut keys. So if I'm here and I hit the number 3 on the keypad, it automatically goes. You know, so if I don't remember it, I can just come up here to viewport, and that's the same with anything. So like, you know, if you're armature, and let's say you wanted to do that any one of these different things, it tells you. So if you want it to split, it tells you it's the Y key. You want to separate the bones, it's the P key. So I could literally do that any way I want. So, and to make it faster, and then the more you do it, you'll get used to it. But that's the way, whatever you're doing on the short key can be done up here at the top. So if I find it and I know, okay, I want to go back to the front, it's my number pad 1, right? Front is my number pad 1. And then I know number pad 3 is the right one. I can hit 1 to go to the front, hit 3 to go back. And it's just that quick and easier. It just makes it more simple. So the very basic of bones: move them, change them, rotate them, copy them over. This is a very basic and quick tutorial for me to learn if I need to always refer back to it, because sometimes I'll start working on something else and go a long period of time and I forget how to do it.